There was no, I was the problem. Hey everyone, this is Marilyn Hemingway and Brandon Upson. I make all apologies to everyone that I messed up the broadcast because I was trying to switch from my phone to my computer. But we're here now, and Donald's coming back in. But Brandon, you were talking about the policies. Do you remember where you were?
I do, because I was saying that we need to be able to hold our representatives accountable,
We do.
especially the ones who are representing communities that look like us, who are those communities of the high risk elements, who have pre-existing conditions, who are disenfranchised and disconnected from economic lifelines. If you have the vaccine coming to your community and there are folks who want and need that vaccine, but folks are coming from outside of that community and receiving those vaccines instead of your constituents, then it is beholden to you and your responsibility to speak up and correct that immediately. And if you live in a community where that's happening, it is your responsibility to make sure everyone knows what's happening and what's not happening, so that you can start recruiting somebody else to run against them. Because we're living in a time where the economic strains on our community is just as deadly as the COVID-19 pandemic. And what do I mean by that? In South Carolina, and I'll talk about this, it might be taboo to talk about, but we had a situation where our state legislator voted to increase the rates on our energy rates, for SCE&G, multiple times. There was a whole fiasco associated with it, to where the fat cats are getting fatter. Folks are getting paid future money right now to do things that they ain't gonna do and don't plan on doing, right? Yeah. But we're the ones suffering. I spoke to a 66-year-old woman yesterday who lives in Columbia, South Carolina, and her light bill, she's the only one living in her home. She's retired. She's a cancer survivor. And she has no plans on going out and trying to find another job right now, but now she's considering it because her light bill is $1,400.
What?
Yes. And for my birthday, I remember reaching out to people and helping folks, and there were many people who reached out to me. Their bills aren't back, overdue. There's no interest or fees attached to it, but their light bills are outrageous. $700, $1,000. Now this one is $1,400. And this is I'm telling you, this is just as dangerous for our community as a pandemic. And yes. I know folks said this before, when the country gets the cold, the Black community gets the flu. Well, right now the country got the pandemic, and now we're getting life sentences. Because we have been so strained economically that we can't adjust, or we don't have the savings to float us a year to be able to handle these increased costs that we're faced with. And a lot of folks are terrified. Well, my landlord wasn't able to evict me, but what's going to happen when the pandemic is lifted and all this other stuff? Are they going to charge me for this back rent for the whole year? Like, what's really going to happen? And we see in South Carolina, the state Senate and the state legislature, the House of Representatives, they have lost their damn minds.
Yeah, they have.
They have super majorities in the House and the state Senate. So they don't care about folks who look like us, who don't have the means that they have, because they're only caring about their reelection and their constituency, that really have been brainwashed into thinking that they care about them, when at the end of the day is politics and party above the people when it comes to their policy.
Brandon, you are so correct. And so the first thing I want to say is the Republicans are more concerned about the unborn than the born.
Mm-hmm.
It's so apparent, and it's really not even that. They just care about power and greed.
Power. Yeah.
And they took a single issue, abortion, and they drilled it in the heads of evangelical white Christians for 40, 50 years that this is the end all be all issue. And it's really not even biblical. It's about power and greed, because they knew this is the issue that we can miseducate you on, misguide you on, and you're going to go to bat for us. You're going to turn out in these elections for us. But they really don't care about the unborn. They really don't care about babies. They don't care about the unborn. They do care about turning out the vote on election day.
That's all they care about.
That's the bottom line. So we could get into the morality of that, but we're talking politics today. But I'll say this, it is immoral. And in this show, we could talk about this, because this is my show, and this is why we having it, so we can have these conversations. So y'all come for me if you want to. I'm gonna speak out. All right. So let's just put that out there. It's not even about morals. It's about power and greed.
Yeah.
Second thing, and Donald and I are advocates for the energy, what's going on with energy in South Carolina right now. So the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, we have endorsed the sale of Santee Cooper, our state-owned utility, to NextEra Energy, because one, it's the future. NextEra Energy will move us so quickly, fast forward in green renewable energy, where we need to go. And I'm not talking about in terms of green renewable energy being perfect. I'm talking in terms that it is 100 times better than coal and gas. All right? Because right now, I live less than 5 miles from a coal generating plant. And I know when we were in middle school, they put the signs up, not to fish in the Sanford River, but fish once a week in the Sanford River. Why would I want to fish once a week when you pull up fish? They got warts on the fish because there's too much mercury, there's too much toxins in the water. And Donald's from Georgetown, also, he knows you shouldn't be fishing in that water at all.
No doubt.
And it's been polluted by Santee Cooper when y'all generating plant, and the paper mill and the steel mill. So they're not alone, but they are a huge part of polluting the Sanford River. And for the last 30, 40 years, they have exceeded the EPA limits for mercury. And in the last year, they have exceeded the limits for the whole year. Okay? They simply don't care. No. Because as I tell people on behalf of the Gullah Geechee Chamber of Commerce, that Santee Cooper on paper is a state-owned utility, but in reality, it's a private piggy bank for the good old boys. And y'all can repeat that and say Marilyn Hemingway said it, because I've already said it more than once publicly, and I'll say it again. And if we don't change this, because as you say, these good old boys, when they're at the State House, they're not talking about what impacts the Black community. They're not talking about what impacts the least of these. Because if you are a moral person, that's the kind of conversation you need to be having. Because what impacts us positively will always impact their population positively. Because all boats lifted up will impact everybody in a favorable way. They simply don't care.
Right.
They simply don't care. And if we have got to get it in our hands that if we are not at the table, we are on the menu. And when I started the chamber, I'm building a whole new table. I welcome other tables into the room.
Build the house, Marilyn. Build the house that the tables are in.
That's right.
You need many rooms with many tables so you can have many, many chairs.
That's right.
That's what we need, because right now we're knocking on the front door just trying to get in so we can have a seat at that table. Well, we need to create our own building so we can open up our own doors and create our own tables and put our folks in. You know, I'm now the vice chair of the board of directors for the Gutless Society, and we just went into a project, and I wanted to use this as an example for how people put their profits over the people, right? We just found a little more than a year ago, we found a property that had documented 3,600 remains buried under the property from descendants of African slaves, right? under this property, what it showed me was there were 4 houses built on top of these graves that some people don't care about the least of these, the minorities, the disenfranchised and underrepresented when they're alive, and then for dang sure don't care about them when they're dead. And the disrespect of, the process of building a house on top of the graves and then digging a basement for that house and not, and you know what you have to go through, and in some places on this property, bodies are 4 levels deep. You know, there is a complete change of mentality that we need to undergo, and a complete change in gumption that we need to have when we send people to represent us. I have to shout out Crystal Matthews, because even though she's what you consider a freshman representative, she has not held back one iota when it comes to voicing the issues of her constituents. I even have to shout out Russell Ott, who has been fighting for the lease of these, Matthews. We need more people who are willing to do what is unpopular and what may be considered taboo, so that we can get the things we need for the quote unquote lease of these in the communities that they represent.
That's it. That's so true. That's so true. We've got to speak out, even if it's at great cost for us as individuals. And you know what I have found, Brandon, when you speak out politically, the cost isn't actually that great. I think people let their fear hold them back.
Mm-hmm.
But when you speak out and you remove that fear, they actually cannot hurt you. They cannot hurt you. We just got to mentally get over that barrier that we have, that I'm going to lose my job. This is going and actually you may lose your job, but guess what? If we know you out there fighting for us, then you go to courts. Then you got a community behind you that makes sure you get either a better job or you get that job back.
Mm-hmm.
So, they can't just fire you. There are things that can protect you, but we got to fight for them. We've got to fight for those who speak out and make sure they have our backs. And we got to fight for the policies and issues and laws that benefit our community. And kudos to Representative Matthews. Kudos to Representative Ott and the others who are speaking out. But too many of our elected officials, those who look like us, I have learned, are not educating the community, and that's part of their responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not fighting for the community. They're part of the problem, and they need to go too.
Absolutely.
So we need people to run for office. Donald, I know you have an opinion on that too.
Yeah, well, I've got an opinion on it because, I found it very interesting, Marilyn and Brandon, that the legislators, the African American legislators, were not educating the people about what's going on as it relates to energy and Santee Cooper in this country, in this state. And I couldn't, I mean, for the life of me, as I went and I talked to some people that are really, really embedded in the community, and they didn't have a clue what was going on. And so our Black senators and our Black House members were voting on issues that their constituents knew nothing about. They did not discuss it with them, and I just found that just really disheartening. That
it's appalling is what it is. Because how hard is it? And I believe Santee Cooper, for the last 4 years since the nuclear fiasco blew up in their face, they knew what was going on. How hard is it to call a town hall meeting in your local library and just tell the people, this is what you need to know? We're not asking, at that time, you're not picking sides or anything. You're informing your constituents. And now, in the age of COVID, one of the silver linings, everybody's at home. And if you have access to a computer, have a computer, a Zoom town hall. Do what we're doing now, having this conversation. You actually will end up probably getting more people. Then don't use the excuse everybody don't have computers. Then you know what you need to do? print out a newsletter,
Mhm.
and you make sure you hire some young people. So now you're creating jobs to go into the neighborhoods and pass those newsletters out.
Come on.
There are many methods to give knowledge to educate your constituents, and it is not happening. It's not happening, and
Where
it
there's a
needs
will,
to
there's
stop.
a way.
That's right. That's right. If Beto O'Rourke can go and feed people in Texas and develop a phone bank to get to the elderly during a major storm and get blankets and things to help people, you can surely get a newsletter when the weather is good in South Carolina.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go to Mexico, Cancun. Do your job. Do
That's
your
it.
job. You knew Tad was gonna come up because Ebony Hughes wanted Tad to come up. Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I wish brother Jamar Brown was on here to express his feelings about the good
Real
sentiments.
feelings. Y'all,
I
no.
have to quote Bernie Mac from when he was on House Party. He said, "You ain't worth two dead flies smashed," and that is Ted Cruz.
Ooh, I got to remember that one.
that guy there is absolutely worthless, even to himself. You know, he believes, and I'm just speculating here, that the things that he is doing is positioning him for a higher calling or position in the United States government. And I just don't understand how you can say that you're for something today and before lunchtime say that you're against it, and then by the end of the day saying that you're for it a different way that you said you were for it the first time, and then when you're called to the table say you never said it in the first place.
Yeah,
You know,
lie after lie.
absolutely. The guy is, and he's not doing anything for Texas. He's not bringing anything home. You know, the number one job of a elected official at any level of government is to make life better for the people they serve. And look at what's happening. What has he done to make life better for Texans? The proof is in the pudding.
Brandon, he is a living example of elected officials who have confused being elected as the accomplishment. The accomplishment is not being elected. The accomplishment is, what did you do to make the lives of your constituents better? That's the accomplishment. Too many of these elected officials, local, state, and federal level, think I went on Twitter and put a tweet out today knocking the opposition is an accomplishment. They all are operating in a reality show mentality. We did not elect you to be on a reality show. We elect you to look at the problems we have as a society and to run the government to solve those problems for the majority of the people. I didn't say 100% of the people. I said the majority of the people, because you will never satisfy 100%. So that means if you know I'm not going to satisfy 100%, but I'm going to do right by the majority, it then becomes a moral question.
Come on.
It becomes a moral question of doing the right thing.
Right.
And no one should be surprised by what Ted Cruz did by getting on a plane, looking out for his family to go to Cancun. Because his entire political life has been about himself and the power and greed that he seeks. This is just one more manifestation of that. And I don't know, it goes back to, I believe, these one issue voters who are stuck on an issue and they believe that he is delivering that issue to them. In reality, he's not, because the man is not capable of having the mentality to solve the problem.
Right.
Any problem.
When I
Go ahead, Don.
When I think of the Ted Cruz fiasco, and I listen to what you all said, my mind went back to, how does Ted Cruz get elected? The mindset of the people who sent this maniac to represent them. And so and so there's a bigger problem that's going on in our country that will produce a Ted Cruz, because surely you and I are not surprised about Ted Cruz. I mean, we know who he is. We know who he is, and yet those people in Texas believed in his values to send him to be the senator from the state.
Mm-hmm.
That is an issue that we have to tackle at the grassroots level. That mindset that would have someone go and would send a Ted Cruz to represent him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Go ahead, Brandon.
I had early last year, I had someone that I love and cherish dearly tell me that she supported Donald Trump because she believed that he was ordained by God for such a time as this, right? And no matter what he did, even if she didn't agree with it, she believed that he was doing it for a purpose and he needed a second chance to continue to walk it out so that we can save America. And one of the biggest pieces of her rationale was the fact that he wasn't afraid to speak about his religion and his faith in God and his fight against abortion. Now, you know, I looked at her and it's like, oh, okay. but that is the same constituency that vote for Ted Cruz, that vote for Henry McMaster, that vote for, you know, all of these other guys who are fulfilling their dream of being important and having power. And when I think about them in government, I think about the mentality of a rapist. A rapist doesn't rape for the sexual pleasure. They rape for the power over that person or those people. And they get off on having such power and control over other human beings that they're willing to sacrifice as many people as it takes for them to get even further up the political ladder. And that is Ted Cruz.
You know, I don't know your friend, Brandon. At least I don't think I know your friend. But I have to say this. Racism is a hell of a drug.
Oh my God.
And I don't have sympathy for people who are starting to realize that their parents and their grandparents lied to them all these years about the superiority of whiteness. Mm-hmm. And when you start to understand that they've been raised to value their whiteness over everything, even their own health, mm-hmm. their own religion, their own economy, their own education. And when I say their own, their children and their grandchildren, great-grandchildren, they hate us more than they love themselves. Mm. And it has gotten people where you can put the facts in front of them, but if they accept the facts, they have to deny the one thing that they value, and that's their whiteness. And they can put it in any kind of terms they want to, that Donald Trump speaks truth to power and he speaks about his religion, when the religion is really white supremacy. Mm. Now, they'll never sit there and say, I'm racist. And I'm just going to say, you could beat me up for it, Brandon, but your friend don't realize her own racism. Mm. And there's so many white people, they don't claim the cloak of racism, mm-hmm. because they know deep down where they still have a moral seed, moral space, if you will, that to be racist is wrong. So we got to say everything else, all the coded terms and words, other than, I just don't like black people. I don't like brown people. This country is turning more black and brown, and it's eating me up. Because that's what hate and bigotry will eventually do.
Mhm.
Hate and bigotry will eventually eat up the person who's espousing those ideas, words, terms, or whatever.
Yeah.
And that is what we have to deal with in this country. And if we don't deal with it, we are all going to perish.
Yeah.
That's what drove the people to go to the Capitol. When you have the Confederate flag in the United States Capitol, you know why you there? Trump is just another Confederate flag. When you see the Trump flag, you see the Confederacy, you see Nazis. That's just the new switch. You know, that's just the new bait switch.
Yeah.
You can't, I like Trump. No, you racist.
Mhm.
Trump is just a manifestation of what's in you. And he's giving people permission to let all that bigotry and hate out. And that's why drives their policies and issues. Donald.
It starts so early. I want to share something to you that I found out yesterday. I was visiting a relative who's a retired educator who has went back into the schools to work and teaching in one of the programs for the school district. And so she was teaching kids. They were doing Black History all this month. They were doing Black History. And she said, and these kids are like 5th and 6th grade. And she said, one of the young white kids stood up and said, "Can we talk about something other than Black people? I don't want to talk about that anymore."
Mm.
And then one of the other kids stood up and says, "Donald Trump, that's our president, Donald Trump." So she said they were like, "What the hell going on, man? Who's mentioned anything but the president?" So this young guy, he's in the 5th grade, stood up and said, "We want Donald Trump." You know, so obviously he's hearing this at home. Okay, I mean, we really, really, really got to be involved. Got to do what we can to educate our children and really let them know and teach that, man, this ain't going over. This is not going to go away overnight.
Right.
No,
it's not.
Yeah, we
It's
got
not.
to fight for the soul of this nation. We do.
Yeah,
But
I
now
do.
I have to personally jump off because I'm on the NAACP Laura Richland banquet call. I mean, not banquet, Black History program.
Thank you, Donald. Thank you for coming. It's much appreciated. Brandon and I are going to wrap it up because we want to talk about Tim Scott.
Yeah, y'all talk about Tim
Wrap it
Scott.
up.
Ebony will be happy that Ebony loves to talk about Tim Scott. She can't stand him.
We're going to talk about Tim Scott and wrap this show up, but we're going to thank you, Donald, for coming. We're going to talk about policies and issues, but thank you, Donald. We'll see you next time. So we are going to talk about Tim Scott, but before we do, I had a thought in my head, then Donald had to say his words, but Brandy, go ahead and start talking about Tim Scott. I know it'll come back to me. My thought.
Okay. Well, my thing with brother Tim Scott is that just as bad as someone out here expounding, these things about Donald Trump and supporting him, and Ted Cruz flying to Cancun when there are people in his community suffering, is just as bad when you have someone who knows better but decides to support the wrong thing. And that is Tim Scott. Tim Scott ain't no fool by any definition.
Mm-hmm.
He is politically astute and he's very smart. And he knows right from wrong. He'll tell you his mama used to go up beside his head when he got out of line growing up in North Charleston. But he has decided with a political calculation that is more advantageous for me to support the immoral and unethical actions that I'm seeing because it will advance me politically than to speak up and be courageous and do the things that I was elected to do to serve my constituents. And that's why Tim Scott has to go. Tim Scott.
Because I think, Brandon, I so agree with you. And I think that's why people need to realize when you have knowledge of policies and issues, it becomes a moral question. This is about morality.
Yes.
And morality informs your politics.
Yeah.
And you are right. He has made a political calculation because of power and greed that he would rather advance himself as an individual than to do right by the majority of the community. And when I say the majority of the community, I'm talking about Black, white, I'm talking about Hispanic, Asian Americans. I'm talking about everybody.
Yeah.
He's made that political calculation. And I totally agree with you. And it is why he needs to go. And it's also why Lindsey Graham needs to go. They know what they're doing. They know that they're playing with fire.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are people out here, if they are willing to go to the Capitol and invade the Capitol, do an insurrection, if they are willing to sit back and let policemen not be held accountable for shooting innocent people, there are those within that rank willing to shoot Black folks.
Right.
The police are just the front line. You know, the Republicans, through their power and greed, have lost control of that part of their party. It's taken over. Now, people need to be clear. They have always had racism in the Republican Party in the last 50 years. They've been fighting against the civil rights movement for the last 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right. They use single issues to fight that. People need to understand that Trump did not come from nowhere to be president. He is the fruit of a poisonous tree.
Absolutely.
He came from a fertile field of racism and bigotry and hate, driven by power and greed. So even with Trump gone, you already see it's a Nikki Haley has taken up the movement.
Yep.
Lindsey Graham still chasing after Trump. Tim Scott has taken up the movement.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get it twisted, because they are gaslighting the country.
Okay.
Promoting voter suppression tactics. Because too many Black and brown people voted November 3rd, in spite of a pandemic,
right.
in spite of good weather and bad weather, stood in line for hours to go vote. And repeated themselves in Georgia, January 5th.
Right.
In greater numbers than November 3rd, because we understood the consequences. Y'all, we got to stay in the fight. But what we have to stay in the fight for right now is understanding and having knowledge of the policies and the issues. It's not always about voting for the candidate.
Right.
It's about being strategic and playing the chess game.
Absolutely.
And to play, sometimes you support a candidate, you ain't gonna get everything you want. But you know the other candidate, you're gonna lose everything you need.
Mm.
So Biden, we have to stay on him to get what we want.
Mm-hmm.
Hold him accountable. And elect people who can help Biden push what we want. Because those counts, those votes in the Senate and the House are razor thin. We need more people to get knowledge about policies and issues. We need more people to run.
Mm-hmm.
And we need more people to do what? Vote. And I truly believe, Brandon, if people have knowledge about the policies and issues, they will make the right decision.
Absolutely.
But right now, we have people, Scott, Nikki Haley, Lindsey Graham, who do not mean right for the majority of the people. And they cloak it in racist words, cold words. You know, and we have to hold them accountable. Go ahead. You know, I get hot when we have our third Sunday politics show. Because, I mean, I really am concerned about our communities.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I am too. And I know we're about to wrap up, but I wanted to bring this down to the level, like right on the ground, right? there's a young lady by the name of Deanna Milliberry who's running for mayor in the city of Denmark, South Carolina, where folks not only we're fighting with, having clean drinking water when their water was poisoned with the unauthorized chemical agent, but also fighting with excessive water bills and now light bills upon, all the other issues that we're facing, right? But that's a Democratic city, 90% African American, I believe 100% Black representation. We have to make sure we hold folks like that accountable as well. We got a mayor's race coming up in the city of Columbia, in Winsboro, South Carolina. We just helped a young lady over with our other side of the line, helped a lady in Florence by the name of LaShonda Neesmith Jackson, who ran for city council. We have to make sure, while we're looking at these national roles and these national people, these federal races, making sure folks like Tim Scott, we get someone who can better represent us to replace him, while we're holding Nikki Haley accountable while she's on her quest to be vice president or president of the United States, while we're holding Lindsey Graham accountable while he's trying to be the best friend of the ex-president instead of the senator for South Carolina. We need to hold people accountable across the board. So, in doing that, we also have to promote the people who are doing good things. That's why I mentioned Deanna Milliberry. That's why I mentioned LaShonda Neesmith Jackson. That's why I am out here trying to get good people to run for office in South Carolina. And I'll start shouting their names from the rooftop when we find them. But if you are watching this and you could do better, do it. Don't wait on anybody to give you permission to go out here and do the right thing for your community, whether it's for city council or United States Senate. We need more women running. We need more Black women running. There's no reason why we don't have a Black woman who is ready to run against Tim Scott. There's no reason why we're not galvanizing around a Black woman to run for governor of South Carolina, which I have somebody in my head, but y'all can decide for yourself. But the time is now. And if we wait on someone else to do it, we'll be waiting until the end of our lives. We got to use this time that we have right now to do what's right.
There's a saying, if you ever thought what would you would do in the civil rights movement, what would you do? Guess what? Now is the time, folks. What would you have done in the civil rights movement? Because we are in the middle of a historic global moment, inflection. And we need to ask ourselves as individuals, what am I going to do? Right. Everybody likes to quote Barack Obama, and Barack Obama said, "You are the leaders you've been waiting for." And it's true. It's true. So we need to get right as individuals and stop looking for somebody to solve your problems. We need to figure out how we solve our own problems. And, and I'm not saying that in terms of this individualistic, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I'm saying it in terms of how do we work together as a community to solve these problems we are facing. And we need to step up to be the leaders to do that. And sometimes stepping up and being a leader is simply asking the questions. Mm-hmm. And then there's a young lady who posted, we're going to wrap up with this, Brandon, answering her questions. And I believe how do we get South Carolina voters to understand? Jennifer Wicker. And that's why we were having this conversation all day, Jennifer, actually. And we got kind of in the weeds with some issues because of the energy situation in Texas, but it also impacts South Carolina and what's going on in South Carolina. But how do we get voters to understand? Start talking to the voters just start talking about your concerns. Go to your city, school board, county council meetings, and go to public comments and start asking questions. Mm-hmm. We got to get in our heads that we are the boss of the elected officials. and you have every right to ask them questions. Do not confuse good manners with the right to ask questions. People are, well, how do I do that? You ask.
Mhm.
You ask, why did you vote this way on this ordinance?
Right.
Why do I continue to have potholes in my street? Why is the water not draining? Why are the children getting sick from the water? Why does the school district not have a good budget? Why are we not investing in education? You just ask the question, because it is their responsibility, if they don't know the answer, to find the answer so they can give you the answer. And
Right.
that goes back to what we were saying with our elected officials not even holding town hall meetings to educate folks.
Right.
So many of them are not even on social media. If they stayed on social media all the time just posting information, when they get to the town hall meeting, you're already somewhat informed. You need to hold your elected officials accountable and say, why are you not on social media like you should be? You should be having a 5-minute conversation with us every week, just talking about COVID.
Yeah.
What's going on in the state? It's not just the governor. Your state rep and state senator needs to be having 5-minute conversations about, these are the numbers in my district for COVID. And if I can't get the numbers because DHEC is not doing their job, what do I need to do? I need to let my constituents know that
Right.
DHEC isn't doing their job, so I can't do my job
Right.
to tell you what's going on. And if we don't ask the question, we keep getting away with it time and time again. And if they're going to do that, you need to ask the question of, who gonna run against them?
Absolutely.
And who are we gonna vote for?
Absolutely.
And get rid of them.
Yep. And when you ask the question, you have to bring the answer or the lack thereof of an answer back to your neighbors and tell them, you know, that problem we said we had, I went there and asked them about it, and they couldn't even give me a straight answer. And then y'all start having those conversations amongst yourself. If they're not going to help inform your community, then you take it upon yourself to inform your community. And when we are with our nonprofit organization doing nonpartisan voter registration efforts, we make sure that we connect issues with the solution, and our solution that we see is getting you ready for the franchise so you can vote. You know, if you don't know why you're voting or how your vote impacts the issues that you're facing, then why would you get involved in the first place? So for the lady, I think her name was Jennifer, who asked that question, you know, think about it for yourself. Why do you believe that your vote matters? Why do you believe that your voice can help make a difference? Then convince someone else of the same thing once you find it out for yourself. And that's what Marilyn is saying. And I love your passion, Marilyn. I was about to put on my shoes so I can shout in the corner over here.
Because Brandon, for me, I love my people. And when I say I love my people, I love humanity. Yeah. You know, I was listening to something on National Public Radio, and they were talking about even the sperm and the egg, and it was a scientific question. And the woman was saying, I was talking to my grandfather and how just through the science, it's a miracle that all of us are here. Mm-hmm. You know, that what has to go through in our bodies for the sperm and the egg to even connect to create the birth and everything. And then you move through life, and how it's in many ways just sheer luck that you are where you are. Right. You know, and they were talking about gratitude. And I am appreciative and full of gratitude for the life that I've been able to lead. And I am grateful for parents who taught me to love my community and work in my community. In particular, my mother, who said, really taught me gratitude. And that for those who've been given much, much is expected. That was drilled into us. It has a family. And if my community is uplifted, I am uplifted. Yeah. So I do get passionate because I see that I was put on this earth for a certain reason. And woe to me if I don't take that gift and run with it.
Mhm.
You know, I did the research, for example, with Santee Cooper and NextEra Energy, because it was brought to my attention. I was aware of it, and I'm like, okay, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And I did the research, just like a lot of people are going to do research on a lot of different issues. And I realized my community needed to know what was going on. This is real impact here.
Yep.
When you tell me an elderly woman on a fixed income is paying $1,400 an electric bill, or attempting to pay that, because she has to make real life decisions of, am I going to eat today? Am I going to stay warm today? Am I going to get prescriptions today?
Mhm.
Because I can't pay $1,400. And where are the programs to help me?
Right.
And it's not even necessarily the programs to help her. We got to go all the way back to the beginning and understand, why is the bill even that high? It's because somebody made policy and issues decisions that led to that. And we have to be all in if we care about our community. And I know it's hard. It is not easy, but God said, I'm going to bring you through. God didn't say it's going to be easy. And
Right.
God didn't say it's going to be hard. God said, I'm going to bring you through. But we've got to do our part.
Absolutely.
And yes, I'm passionate about it, because this is the journey I'm on, and I enjoy it. I love my people. I love my friends like Brandon and Jamar, who's not with us, Donald. All of us bring something to the table. And if I cannot see the humanity in me, I will never be able to see the humanity in you. And that's what we have right now with the Republican Party. They are so blinded by power and greed and immorality. They can't even see the humanity in people. Ted Cruz got on a plane because he didn't care enough about people.
Right.
That's all. It ain't hard, folks,
Right.
to understand. And he was elected to care about people. You know? So, Brandon, any last words? I know we're going over it. You got a family waiting on you. I appreciate you being here with us. We always get into it on our Third Sunday Politics. I know we go deep.
Yeah, because we have to.
We have to. We have to.
This is part of educating folks about not just what's going on, but the power that they have. And I want to leave folks with this. You have more power than you could ever imagine. Today, I heard someone say, speak what you seek until you see what you say. And if you, in politics, I see this as you speaking out for what you want to see in your community as often and as regular as possible until you see what you're asking for. And you have the authority to demand it because these elected officials work for you. And if they're not doing their job, you replace them. And whether that's you running or you finding somebody to run against them and you rallying the troops around them, we have to do it because the time is now. Tomorrow won't look as bright, and the opportunity won't be as bright tomorrow as it is right now to make the change that we need. So keep up the good fight and know that you're never going to fight alone. We're only one call away. You can find me and contact me through our website, ampirevote.com, or if you need me directly, brandonupson.com, anywhere, and I'll be there.
Thank you, Brandon. That's a wonderful way to end the program. I want to remind everyone, listen to Brandon. Reach out to him at ampirevote.com. You can reach us at GallagherChamber.org and GallagherLeadership.org. We are here to help in any way we can. We probably have our lanes, but we kind of interconnect with a whole bunch of stuff because of what we do. And which is one reason I admire Brandon. He is here on the ground doing the work, and anything I can do to help that, I will continue doing it. Every third Sunday, folks, we are here talking politics. And just to let y'all know, please keep Jamar Brown and all of those in Texas in your prayers. And if you can donate in any type of program or anything, please make those donations for those in Texas. Jamar could not join us today because he literally just got electricity, I think, back today, and it's been off and on. But he is usually with us, speaking truth to power. And I know he said he'll be here next month. So, and next, this coming Wednesday, our program will be about public health. We'll have St. James Health and Wellness on, Linda Lina, to talk about public health and what that encompasses. And that actually is going to be a regular monthly feature also, because we're here to educate our folks as we gather together to impact our community. Thank you all for joining us today for A Gathering Place. Brandon, thank you.
Thank you. I
Stay
look forward
safe.
to it.
I know.
Always.
Stay safe, y'all. Y'all, we do try. Y'all, this is the only time we actually talk to each other. We're all
on the
like,
move.
yeah, we have to schedule it, stop, and we come and talk, but we are all on the move. But we want our community to move with us.
Absolutely.
And that's why we take this time to stop and come and talk. And we do appreciate our viewing, listening audience for joining us today. Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, everyone. And I'll see you Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Have a good one, Brandon. Be safe out there.
You too. Love you, Marilyn.
All right. Love
Bye.
you too. Bye-bye.